I've been testing several different AI programs, trying to find the ones that best fit for fashion design development. I talked about one of my favorites in this video, but I want to share with you my feedback on one that is pretty robust in the many features it offers. That app is called Raspberry.ai. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Mikkel Drew Pelham. I talk about digital fashion design software and communication for fashion entrepreneurs on this channel. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you watched this video or you follow me on LinkedIn, you've heard me talk about some of the issues I have with a lot of the current AI software. And my biggest issue right now is how it addresses what a designer actually does and their pain points. One of the things I like about Raspberry AI is that it addresses a lot of those pain points, as well as giving you various AI tools that many others on your team could use. It's kind of an AI one-stop shop, if you will. And while I sometimes am a little suspicious of that, I think Raspberry does a really great job creating multiple functions within the tool that actually work really well. The other thing I want to mention here is that when there are occasional hiccups or things that are just really not looking good at all, I can almost guarantee you that if you come back to the software in like a week, it'll be corrected. Or at least if you generate again, it'll be much better. And I have an example of that I'll talk about later in the video. But let me show you the platform and I'll give you a little overview. When you first open the software, the landing page shows all the different functions you have access to. And they're grouped into three categories: create, edit, and mix. Create is where you'll start generating your AI creations. You can then move to edit. And then lastly, if you're feeling experimental, you can try the mix features. Within Create, you have multiple options: create lifestyle photography, create product photography, prints and patterns, sketch to render, 2D sketch, background generator, 3D avatar to photorealism, and graphics and placement prints. There's a lot to choose from here, which is cool. But what I am always focused on as a designer is the design development. As a fashion entrepreneur, you eventually have to think about your marketing, which is when the lifestyle and product photography come in, and the background generator. But the design development comes first. So those are the tools I'm going to focus on in this video. Now, all of the remaining tools are really cool and helpful, but of all of them, my favorite and what I think is the most beneficial for design development, making quicker decisions, showing things to your client and getting their buy-in before you move into 3D or sampling, is the sketch to render. Not only do I view it as a quick win, but also the render that's created can be used as a selling tool. Now for this to work, you need to upload a sketch. For those of you who don't draw in Illustrator, don't worry. This will work with a hand-drawn sketch as well, including a rough sketch. So don't feel like the sketch has to be perfect. Then you're going to choose the input, whether that be black and white or color sketch, and then choose your desired output. And you can choose between a ghost mannequin or a flat lay. Now there are a lot of other adjustments you can make with the sliders: sketch influence, the guidance scale, steps. But the nice thing about how Raspberry is set up is that the default sliders are set to where they believe you'll get the best results. And honestly, I haven't really felt the need to do much adjusting of these sliders in any of the modules in here. I may regenerate more than once, but I don't really do much with the sliders. I do, however, use their AI tool to describe the image so that it can generate a prompt, which is required for this to work. And I am not a fan of writing prompts, especially when I already have a sketch. So this is very helpful. I just make sure that the AI description it creates truly represents my sketch, which usually does. It's pretty good. And then I choose use as prompt and then hit the pink generate button. I'm speeding this up a little, but it usually only takes a minute or two, usually less, to generate your sketches. So it's pretty quick. And I think I did a pretty good job on the details. The fabric on most of them seems a little shiny, so in the prompt, maybe I'll specify single-breasted wool blazer, so hopefully the fabric won't come back so shiny on the next generations. Also, here's something else you'll want to note. See how the color of this is sort of like muslin or like a natural beige color? That will usually happen from a sketch if you don't specifically mention that you want it to be white. I always like to generate sketch to be white because it's a lot easier to recolor if necessary, which you can do in this app, but I personally like to take it into Photoshop to recolor. So I'm updating this prompt to say white single-breasted wool blazer, etc. And then I'll hit regenerate. These are definitely better. The fabric is a lot less shiny. The color is still a little off-white, but better than before. I did one more generation, this time using prompt weighting, which tells the AI to emphasize certain words within the generation. So I emphasized white, and this time the jacket looks much whiter and brighter. Just for kicks, let's also see this as a flat lay. I definitely don't love it as much. It doesn't feel as dynamic, but it's interesting, and you may want that for something. I mentioned two things earlier. One, that you have to add white to the text prompt, and two, when there are occasional hiccups, you can come back to it and it'll give you a better render. And I want to show you what I mean. The first time I used Raspberry AI, which was months ago at this point, I tried this function with the same sketch I've used with previous AI tools because I wanted to get an apples to apples comparison. And just a refresher, if you haven't seen the previous videos or any of my social media posts, this is what that sketch looks like. And this is what I got. Multiple times. It was very weird. I just kept getting these pink or flesh colored renderings, and I just couldn't understand why. So maybe a week later, I emailed my contact and was like, okay, I got some feedback. But I went back into the program so I could be specific about what the issue was. I generated one more time and I got these. So much better. So much so that I just told her, never mind. That's when she mentioned that they're releasing new updates all the time. So whatever was causing the issue I had the first time was probably addressed in that week's updates, and it was suddenly fine. So sketch to render, check. I love it. For those of us who are delving into the world of 3D, you already know that for as wonderful as it is, it can take some time to build those 3D models. And there's no guarantee that your client will love the design. Most recently, I built several styles in 3D, which altogether probably took the equivalent of a week's worth of work. And I mean like 40 hours total. All of the styles I built were dropped. And although it was great practice for me in the 3D software, it was still a little bit disappointing to put in that much work and not one style gets put into the line. But a tool like this will allow you to work with your client using a sketch that is much more understandable to them. And if the style is dropped, you've only lost minutes of your time, not days. Sketch to render is definitely my favorite and the one I think is most beneficial. But there are others that I think are honorable mentions for design development. 3D avatar to photorealism is also a good one, and although you could say this might be on the verge of marketing, I would argue that it could also be a great tool, much like sketch to render, to quickly make decisions about the collection. If you're working in a 3D fashion design software, at some point you'll probably use that 3D asset to help decide what styles you want to sample. You may want to show it to a client to confirm they're happy with the style before they move forward. And for most people outside of a formally trained designer or pattern maker, a flat sketch can be hard to understand. So the more realistic you can make that style when you show it to your client, the more likely they'll get the vision and the more quickly you can move forward with the next steps. So this one works very similarly to the sketch to render. You upload a 3D picture, choose what the design should look like, use the AI helper to create a prompt or add your own, and then generate. This was my result, which I was pretty happy with. My second honorable mention is the prints and patterns. I personally find this most useful if I just describe what I want. Usually anything I upload is a little too dense with color and imagery, and the pattern it creates is just crazy. But if I add a simple prompt, it does a very cool job of generating a seamless pattern, which is pretty awesome if you want to maybe use it in Photoshop or Illustrator to fill a sketch. So for this, I just used pink roses on a leopard print background. I'm also adding to Just include the leopard pattern, not the animal, because I tried this previously and I was getting actual leopards in the print. There are also options within the 3 dots menu on the generated image that allows you to do things like generate variations, regenerate the current image, and export the file as an SVG. The graphic emplacements print tool works similarly to prints and patterns, but it's actually a newer function that I haven't explored as much as some of the other options. And as I mentioned before, the other tools fall more in the area of marketing. I'm going to skip the edit module because honestly, I don't use it much. I usually just switch back to Photoshop, but I did want to get into the mix module because I think this one brings the practical and the fantastic. On the practical side, this can be a great tool to update carryover styles, which we often have to do, with some slight tweaks, and also see the remixed version in a new fabric. Now, where the fantasy comes in is here, where you can try unconventional materials with an existing style. It's really fun. It kind of reminds me of the unconventional challenge on Project Runway, but the digital version. Are you making these in real life? Most likely not, but it's fun and a great way to get your creative juices flowing. Overall, I like Raspberry AI. I think it can be a great tool for design development. I think there are quite a few tools that are helpful for both the novice and seasoned designer. And for a fashion entrepreneur that's wearing a lot of hats, it can be a great asset to help address some of your other challenges like marketing your products. I also know that AI in general will just continue to get better, and the folks at Raspberry continue to improve the product. So I encourage you all to try it out. Have fun with it. And if you're watching this at the time of this recording, Raspberry is offering a free 7-day trial this month. Thanks for watching today's video. Make sure you check out this one next, where I talk about whether the AI fashion apps out now are truly helping you design. And P.S. Raspberry is one of the ones I mentioned that is helping. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video if you find it helpful. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next time.